If you guys have been with me since last summer, you would remember me building my first compost system. I was so eager to start a garden, but plans changed when we sold our house and temporarily moved into an apartment. We had to put the garden on hold, but today I am so excited to start a new homesteading series on my channel. I will be sharing a compost system that I am building, and as we continue into this new year, I'm excited to share the opportunities the Lord has given David and how I will be dreaming my mini homestead into existence. Hey guys, it's Madison. Thanks for joining me in this faithful home. Obviously, you can see behind me, we're in a different location than my apartment. And I am so excited to get to start sharing with you guys what all this land is behind me, how God is opening up doors for David and I to go into ministry, and a lot of fun things are coming and changing for this channel in 2021. I wanted to come on this land and bring you guys this project, which, if you have already noticed by the title of this video, I'm gonna be making a worm bin. I know what you're thinking, worm bin? Really? That's cool. But it's actually super awesome. I am so excited to get my compost started back up again because we've been in an apartment and I was getting really frustrated that I couldn't compost my food scraps and be able to create soil for in the future, hopefully coming soon this spring, we are going to have a garden, and so I will be posting all of those videos and getting to share all that stuff with you guys. But I actually did some research online and found out about vermicomposting, which is basically a compost system that uses worms to break down the food scraps and materials and turn it into compost. So I got really inspired by Natalie over at Hey It's a Good Life. I'll leave her channel down in the description box below for you guys. She is awesome. She is one of, I'd say, my 5 inspirations right now for homesteading and gardening. And she did a couple videos on making a worm bin vermicompost system. And so I'm gonna use her kind of methods and teachings from her videos and make a video for you guys today to show you how I'm making my first vermicompost worm bin. Alright guys, before I jump into the supplies needed for this compost system, if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, I just want to introduce myself again and say hello to you. My name is Madison. I am here to share the gifts and talents God has given me to motivate and inspire you. I make Christian homemaking videos, lifestyle content, and anything DIY related. So if any of that interests you, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button so you feel welcomed into this faithful home with me. Make sure you hop on over to Instagram and follow me at This Faithful Home. That way you can stay up to date with our daily lives. And without further ado, let's jump into this video. Alright, so there are only a few things that I'm going to need for today's compost bin, and I'm doing a 3-tier system, which means I'm going to have 2 levels of compost workings, and then the bottom level is going to be for water and liquid drain off, which you want to save. I have learned that. So to go on the bottom, I have a spigot, like a little ball head hose type spigot that we are going to attach to the lower level, a drill bit, that way I can drill the hole in the bins. Obviously, like I already mentioned, I have 3 bins, and what I do want to say about this that I've learned through my research is that if you're making a worm bin, worms love dark, warm spaces, so you don't want to use a clear bin. You want to make sure to get something that is not transparent. Then you will also need some all-purpose cement, which I'm going to use to adhere the spigot to the base, as well as a mesh screen. Now, I did make a mistake already in buying this. It is slightly larger than the bin itself, and I was kind of hoping to use like this entire piece. That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and cut the mesh because I don't need too much of it. So any extra window screen that you have laying around at home, or you can get a small roll of it at your home improvement store. You're also going to need this Vermiculite. Honestly, I don't really know what it does, except apparently it's good for seed starting and planting and germination. But over at Hey It's a Good Life, she talked about how Vermiculite is good for the compost with your worms. So I'm going with what she said and picked up a bag of that. Behind me over there, you can see some compost that is already in a bag. And then I picked up this cute watering bucket because I didn't have one, and it's super cute, and you're gonna need to water your worm bin. And then of course I'm diving headfirst into this mini homestead lifestyle that I am hoping to achieve over this next year. So I bought some cute gardening gloves. These I also picked up at Lowe's. Not necessary for making the worm bin, but you do want to protect your hands, so I suggest using some gloves while you're making this project. For the actual compost itself, obviously I said we have the compost soil and the vermiculite, but we are also going to add different nitrogens and carbons to create this ecosystem. So in here, I have been collecting some shredded paper and cardboard. That's going to be great for the bedding for the bottom. In this bin here, I have been collecting my food scraps at home. Don't worry if it looks kind of gross or dirty. Obviously, it's old food, so it's gonna look like that. But I had gone ahead and mixed in some used coffee grounds in here because I left this bowl in our fridge, and the coffee grounds really kept it like odor neutral, so it was fine. Going off of that with the coffee grounds, in this bin, I have some used coffee grounds, used tea, as well as eggshells, and this is going to be our grit for our worms. It is a great source for them as they're eating to toughen them up as they compost everything. And then in this last bin that I have here, it's also food scraps, but it's food processed, and I will explain to you guys that later on when we get to piling everything together. But basically, you just want to save your food scrap and save some old coffee grounds and eggshells. That way you can feed your worms. Obviously, the last thing I'm supposed to show you is the worms that I purchased, but they are coming in the mail today. So I wanted to make sure that I make this whole bin setup first before putting the worms in the container, because you don't want to have your worms come in the mail and then all of a sudden you're scrambling because you haven't actually made your system yet, something comes up, and then your worms are gonna die because they are living creatures and they need that soil, they need that warmth, they need that dark space. So I want to make sure that I take you guys through this video and how we are building this setup first. That way later today when the worms come in the mail, we can go pick them up from the house and we can put them in the system. Alright, so the first thing I am doing here is preparing my spigot. So you can see here it is a ball head spigot, so when I turn the knob it will close off and not allow water through. At first I was going to put it on the side, and then I decided I wanted to put it on the bottom instead. So I took my drill bit and kind of gave myself a guide hole. Then I grabbed my drill and I drilled a hole so that I could stick the PVC coupling all the way through. That way the threaded end could thread to the spigot. You can see here I am using the all-purpose cement, which is the PVC glue. I'm giving it a nice generous coating around the entire outside before I finally screw down the spigot, and then I will go back on the inside and give it another coat. That way I know that it is sealed off. Because we are making a 3-bin system, we need a way for the worms to travel from one bin to the next. So on your other 2 buckets, you want to make a lot of holes in the buckets for the worms. Basically, I have both bins stacked here, and I am drilling some guide holes all the way around the entire base. This will give the worms a chance to basically crawl up the bin into the next one when they are done making a compost out of what the original bin was filled with. And I mentioned earlier you are going to need 1 bin for this project. You want your worms to have a little bit of breathing room, but not enough to where they can really escape or a lot of things can get in. So I am making 1 row of holes throughout the entire lid. All right, guys, the moment we've all been waiting for, we are going to go ahead and fill our bin. So our bottom bin that we added the spigot to, it is still over in the corner drying. We need to make sure that that glue dries really well before we introduce it into the bin system. So let's go ahead and grab our new gardening gloves, which I'm super excited to use, and we're gonna start prepping this bin for the compost. Okay. So what we want to do first is start with a layer of bedding along the bottom. And so we're going to use our paper scraps, our cardboard, and I'm going to go down the hill and grab some of the dried leaves that are down there. And we're going to make a nice thick bedding for the worms. So I'm going to make 2 layers within this bin. And then the other bin is going to stay empty for a while, which I'll explain here at the end of the video. But I'm gonna go ahead and prepare 1 layer right now, and then when the worms come in, we'll come back and prepare the second layer. So go ahead and grab some cardboard, paper, and leaves, and let's fill the bottom. All right, we wanna give our bin a nice watering, so go ahead and soak this cardboard. And then because we have the holes at the bottom, you want to go ahead and shake it out and let all of the water drip out underneath. You don't want this to be too wet, but you don't want it to be dry either. All right, next we're going to add our leaves, and you want to make sure to break them up into smaller bits for your worms. Worms have really tiny bodies, and if you break up these leaves for them, it will help them digest better. All right, next we can add our compost. Oh yes, this is where the magic's gonna start to happen. Create a nice bedding layer there for them. And then I'm going to take this bin, which I mentioned earlier has the kind of broken up pieces of scrap food. So I saw this tip from another person online that says they actually go ahead and food process all of their food scraps, which I know is like a really extra thing to do. But if you think about it, worms are like this big. And though their bodies, once they start going and get used to this environment, a pound of worms can break down a pound of food a day, which is incredible. They are still really little, so you want to make sure that you are treating them nicely. And so for me, as my new endeavor into the vermicomposting, I went ahead and left some normal scraps, and then I food processed some scraps. So I'm just going to take these. Looks really gross. And I'm going to layer it in here for them. All right, next we can go in with our vermiculite, and we're just going to sprinkle some along here. Then we will add a little bit of grit from our coffee grounds. All right, we're gonna save the rest of these coffee grounds for once we get the worms. All right, I got more leaves from down the hill. Add a nice layer there. So we're gonna leave it like this for now, and then later today when I go pick up the worms from the mail, we can finish off our bin. Guys, I'm so excited because my worms just came in the mail. These are from Uncle Jim's, and I will link the website down below for you guys. There's 250 worms in this bag. They are live, so I need to put you guys on the tripod so I can put them in the compost bin. All right, I know I already mentioned this, but worms, these specifically are red wigglers. They like warm, dark areas, so you want to make sure that we cover them. So we're going to do a second layer. We're going to add another layer of compost, vermiculite, leaves, grit in the form of eggshells and coffee grounds. Then we will add our remaining food scraps, another layer of bedding, and we are good to go. Alright guys, I cannot believe that this worm bin is finally finished. This is what it's looking like. It looks so good. So we have the ventilated lid on top, and then like I mentioned, this top bin is empty as the worms create the compost and this bin starts to fill up with that good soil. We'll be able to repeat the process in this upper bin and then act as a stacking system. So when this bin is full, the worms will come up through those vent holes into this bin that we can fill with the bedding and layers and everything. And then we'll be able to use this soil. Once we dump it out, we can stack it on top and kind of repeat the process in a never-ending cycle, which is what is so amazing about this 3-bin system. And then I went ahead and had a couple scrap wood pieces from my parents' house that I used just to keep each of the layers elevated off each other. That way I'm not compressing the soil underneath and the worms have room to breathe and move. And so that's something that I would urge you guys to do. Other than that, I think this bin is complete. Okay, popping on here after I put everything away, realizing that I forgot to show you guys where I put that screen that I said I would use for the lower bin. So I'm just gonna like talk you guys through it and probably insert this clip somewhere in the middle of the video because I don't want to pull it all the way out. It's already set up in our shed. But I basically took the screen off of like the white frame, so it was just a big piece of mesh, and I set it down on the bottom layer. And what that's going to do is going to filter all the water and the leachate. That's going to filter that through, but if any dirt or compost or any particles go through the breathing holes for the worms and drop into that lowest bin, they won't get clogged in our spigot. So you want to make sure that you at least cover the little hole for the spigot, but I'm going to do the entire sheet setting in there. That way I can lift up the whole mesh sheet and take out any of those excess droppings. Like I said earlier, these red wigglers like to be in a dark, warm environment, and we are in the middle of winter right now, but I'm going to go put this in one of our sheds. And I can like wrap it in a blanket if they get too cold. We don't really have too freezing of weather where I live, but it still does get cold at night. So you want to make sure to wrap them up in a blanket, keep them inside your house, keep them inside the garage, whatever you can do to keep them warm, dry, and in a dark place. So I'm gonna go do that, and definitely in a future video I will update you guys on how it's looking, how these worms are doing, and any minor tweaks that I make along the way. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below what other homestead projects you want to see here on this channel. I'm really excited to start diving more into a mini homestead as the Lord has provided us opportunities and serve Him through, and I'm excited to make a video soon to tell you guys all about the property that I am on right now. That'll be in an upcoming video, so make sure you check back for that. If you're new to my channel, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button so you feel welcomed into this faithful home with me. I post videos every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, so I will check back with you guys next week for another video. Bye guys.